First thing I want to do is I want to give, this is school board member Tammy Schamberger. Exactly. She is a good friend. She's also a very good school board member. And I'm going to give her a few minutes, to kind of talk about education and what Tallahassee's kind of attack on public education, what it means for your local school district.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Representative Shaw. First of all, let me start with saying thank you so much for what you have done for education and your fight to protect public education. It goes without saying that you really care about our students here in Tampa, so we thank you so much for your support. But you really laid it out very eloquently already. There has been a serious attack on public education, basically to the point of almost dismantling education, and it's very disgusting what has happened. So as a board member, it has put us in a very bad situation. We're having a hard time educating our kids because of this attack. You know, it started last session with House Bill 7069, that horrible train bill that was the beginning of all of this. And now this session with House Bill 7055, right, 7055, another train bill that just further hurts and tries to dismantle public education. And so financially, our district is struggling, as you guys know very well. We talk about it all the time. We have issues paying our teachers. We have issues doing everything in our district because of what Representative Shaw, your counterparts have done to education. And so when we talk about, you know, being able to secure our schools, to protect our students and our staff, to be able to pay our teachers, to be able to provide adequate transportation, and just the necessities like air conditioning and things like that, we just absolutely cannot do it. And we are the third largest district in the state. We have a $3 billion budget, and I'll tell you, we started this year with a $44 million deficit. And next year it's not looking that much better. You know, with this 47-cent increase, it's just not good. That amounts to a little over like $250,000 we're going to get in increased budget, but we expect our expenses to be upwards of $40 million higher next year. But I guess we should be grateful for our 47 cents per student.
Yes.
It's just really not enough. And so we continue to struggle. And so money being pilfered by the charter schools, and like you said, charter schools are setting up shop and getting very lucrative land deals and pilfering off our students and not educating them. In my district alone, I actually just ran a list today, and I looked at all of the charter schools in my area, which I represent basically the same district, the urban core. And the charter schools in my areas are generally D schools. D schools, but we send all of our money to these schools and they're not educating our students. Yet these for-profit, let's be very clear, these for-profit management companies, their administrators are making a lot of money. And then they close shop and they send the kids back to us without money, further putting us in a hole. So anyway, Tallahassee has been very harmful to us, and it's very hard for us to educate our students. And next year, we're now facing a lot of cuts. We've not had a lot of layoffs and a lot of cuts like this in a very long time. So our teaching staff is going to be lower. We're going to have more kids in the classroom per teacher. We're going to have more schools that won't have ACs that can be fixed and roofs that can't be fixed. And we're struggling to pay our teachers who deserve triple what they make right now, but we can't give them a pay raise. And so I asked you before, what's the solution? How do we fix it? And we know the solution is really with the vote. So everyone here knows that we have to make sure that the next election that we get the right people in office that are really going to put the right people in place that will protect public education. But thank you for letting me talk about it.
Of course. I know you weren't talking about me. I'm going to have all the participants in the roundtable kind of introduce themselves and just say who they are and who they represent.
Hi, my name is Wendy Malloy. I'm the local group leader for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. Thank you very much, Sean and Jasmine, for inviting us and for always having an open door when we troop up to Tallahassee. Really appreciate that. Our organization started 5.5 years ago, the day after Sandy Hook. Our founder, Shannon Watts, woke up the next day and realized that she had to do something. She could no longer be on the sidelines where it concerns gun violence and our kids being gunned down in their schools. She was a mom of 5, and she started a Facebook group And it grew and grew, and 5.5 years later, we have 4.5 million supporters around the country. We have a chapter in every state. We are in the State House everywhere, as Sean can attest. We swarm in our red t-shirts, and some people hide, and other people open their doors and take pictures and listen to what we have to say. We work on legislation. Good bills are few and far between, but we support the good gun legislation, and we work really hard to fight bad gun laws, which are like whack-a-mole. They come up every session, and we show up in the hearing rooms and testify and try to get them killed. And we've been pretty lucky in the past couple of years. We've done good work, thanks to some good legislators on the Judiciary Committee. So we also have some gun safety programs that we present to school groups and civic organizations and things like that.
I'll say it again. Again, I'm Tammy Schamberger. I'm the current vice chair of the Hillsborough County School Board, but most importantly, I'm a really concerned citizen tired of the attack on public education.
I'm Freddie Barton. I'm the Executive Director for Safe and Sound Hillsborough, formerly the Violence Prevention Collaborative of Hillsborough County. We too were formed shortly after the tragedy at Sandy Hook. And it was formed by former County Commissioner Kevin Beckner, who wanted to bring a think tank together of stakeholders, both private and public, to address the questions as to what can be done to prevent violence from occurring and growing in our community. Knowing and understanding sometimes we cannot predict the random shooter who just has something in him or her that wants to just cause damage. But we can look at the things that causes violence to happen in our communities, addressing those factors and treating violence as the disease that it really is. And we know to get to the disease, we must look at the factors. So we work on things to address mental health, to address domestic violence, to address substance abuse, to address out-of-school time opportunities for kids, lack of connectivity to services, transportation, unemployment. It's a partnership between the majority of public agencies in Hillsborough County. So the Board of County Commissioners, the Public Defender's Office, the State Attorney's Office, all three cities, the mayors, the police chiefs of Tampa, Temple Terrace, and Plant City, the school district, the sheriff's office, the administrative office of the courts, and the Children's Board, who all came together in an interlocal agreement to say enough is enough. And we have to put our resources, we have to put our time, and most importantly, put our ability to affect policy change to the forefront so that we can protect our most valuable asset, which are our children. And so I too am here not just in my official role as executive director, but in my real official role as a parent and as a concerned citizen to ask the question and to help answer the question as to what can we do together to say the children are well. And thank you, Representative Shaw, for everything that you have done. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'm Macy Lavender. I'm the co-organizer of the Tampa Bay March for Our Lives. Thank you. And then I'm also president of the Democratic Club at my school. And then since March for Our Lives, we've been working. We arranged a town hall for our lives, which was last weekend. And then we also have I will be participating in the school walkout tomorrow. So just for recent activities. Thank you so much, Representative Shaw, for having me. Oh, I'm a senior at Plant High School.
Hi, my name is Sophia Amir. I'm 14 years old and a freshman at Blake High School. I organized the Blake Walkout Friday, the 23rd of February. I organized a march and protest on the 14th of March, and I'll be attending the walkout tomorrow at Blake.
Thank you. I'm Marcus Fernandez. I chair the Northern and Central Florida chapter of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. Our chapter represents the 1st to the 15th congressional district, federal congressional district in Florida, and our organization is aimed at promoting and advocating for federal gun laws and state laws that reduce instances of gun violence. And Representative Shaw, thank you for organizing this and inviting us all to have here to have this conversation.
And I just want to say to the young people especially, I came back in town, especially for the march that was organized by Sophia, and it was amazing. And it was amazing because it was led, directed, promoted, done by them without any interference from us. And I thought it was amazing, and I loved it. And so, I'm going to ask Macy and Sophia first. Do you believe or do you feel safer with teachers possibly being armed in your schools?
Short answer, no. Absolutely not. I don't think that a response to gun violence is to throw more guns at the issue, which I think is just common sense, but apparently not. But also, I don't think that that's a fair responsibility to put on teachers who are already criminally underpaid, who are already having to teach students. To expect them to possibly murder a student is absolutely horrific. To put that responsibility in someone's hands. I don't think any training that you can give to students or teachers over a 6-week course during the summer to train them to use weapons is comparable to the extensive training that law enforcement professionals have to undergo. So those are just reasons I personally oppose it. Also, I just think it's wrong, and everyone opposes it for the most part that I've spoken to. So
She basically said it all. I don't feel safer with the possibility of teachers being armed. There's so many negative repercussions to it, especially for minorities and students of color, so no, definitely not.
Anybody else want to talk about arming of teachers?
Well, the school board unanimously voted to not arm teachers. And so, listen, the kids say it best. I mean, we have the most intelligent and brightest students in Hillsborough County, and they articulate it very, very well. So there's just too many things that can go wrong, and especially in the communities that I represent. So we will absolutely not arm our teachers. So I don't know if you're going to get into the Guardian program and all of that stuff, but there's, we're actually going to be meeting with Sheriff Chronister next week, okay? And he's going to be announcing his plan regarding the Guardian program. So I'm not at liberty to discuss it at this point, but we think that there's going to be a good compromise to really keeping our kids safe and our staff safe in our schools. Next week.
I'll just give a real example. So one of our committees is the Youth and Gun Violence Committee, and it focuses on primarily educating youth about what happens in a gun violence crime, what happens if you are the shooter, what happens if you're just with someone who is a shooter, to really expose them to what happens. But we always start the same, every single mock trial the same way. We ask very simple questions. And we've done this for over 3 years now. And we've asked, the first question is, how safe do you feel in your community? How safe do you feel in your school? And it's so much of a routine that we just move right past those questions. We had a survey done through the school district, and 98% of the youth, in the last survey that we did 2 years ago, 98% of the kids said they felt safe in their school. However, only 41% of the kids said they felt safe in their neighborhood. So we were so used to and conditioned to this that we moved right past the questions and go into the next phase. Less than 2 weeks ago, I was at Young Middle School, and we had an event. We had a Safe and Sound Hillsborough Day at Young Middle School for the 6th graders there. There were nearly 200 youth crammed into the cafeteria talking to us, and we asked that same exact question. There was a room of nearly 200 youth, and we said, how many of you feel safe in your school? And out of nearly 200 students, only 8 raised their hand. It's very seldom that I get stuck and I cannot talk. At that point, I had forgotten the rest of the spill, because it was the first time that I had ever gone into a room full of youth and that question did not go as planned. And so I think that once again, the youth are speaking up in a volume that we can no longer ignore. And whatever solutions we come to, we must consider their perspective, because this is their life that they must have to live.
I mean, and for the record, I'll just speak for myself. I have not run to any young person or teacher who believes that arming of teachers is a good idea. Unanimous. That's just me. So maybe there are other people who have got their doors knocked down for teachers to be armed, but not Sean Shaw. Anyone else on this one?
Yeah, the Brady campaign is just absolutely against arming teachers. If you want to increase funding for weapons for security guards that are over there, or training for security that are there, that's perfectly fine. But there's been no rational argument or evidence-based solution to why a teacher or a librarian should have a weapon on.
We will pay them to train to carry a gun, but won't pay them to teach. That's essentially where we're at.
Sorry. So you have a question?
Well, I was asking you as far as the budget is concerned, why is it that we can't get private citizens to donate toward hiring more security for our schools, since we have all these parents that are out here to actually buy into this.
Well, I mean, so who's going to donate? How's the money going to be split up? How's it going to be fair? Certain communities can afford it, certain can't. And quite frankly, it's the state's responsibility to keep our kids safe. It's not private citizens. And so we should be addressing this in a manner that's the most, from a policy standpoint, the best for the state. And we're not. You know, the way I would argue the way we did it was a knee-jerk reaction, and we were trying to do our NRA politics the best we could. Listen, as I told you, the common denominator in these incidents is the gun. That's what we bent over backwards to not get to.
Yeah, if more guns in more places made people safer, America would be the safest nation on the planet. And we're not. We have a 25% higher homicide by gun rate than peer countries. And the notion, as a mother, the notion of putting guns into classrooms is just horrifying to me. We know that unintentional shootings, we don't call them accidents because unintentional shootings are what they are. They are preventable. Kids get their hands on guns when they're not supposed to. It is the state's responsibility, it's also the parents' responsibility to take care of safe gun storage, make sure their guns are unloaded, locked away. Just yesterday, a toddler shot his mother, his pregnant mom, in a car because he got his hands on a gun in Tampa a couple months ago. The little boy shot himself because he found grandma's gun. He was looking for candy in her purse. It happens all the time. So you put that scenario into a classroom. A Stoneman Douglas teacher left his loaded firearm in a bathroom somewhere, not at the school, and an intoxicated person found it. It could have been a tragedy. By the grace of God, it was not. We also know that the whole good guy with a gun situation is it's a myth. It's totally a myth. The FBI has researched that 1 out of 160 active shooter incidents was stopped by an armed civilian, somebody who wasn't trained. But that one was a former Marine, so he was trained. But 1 out of 160 active shooter situations was stopped by somebody who wasn't called in as law enforcement. I mean, the numbers are there, the data is there. So we listen to our kids, we listen to the students who've been literally fighting for their lives, and we listen to research and numbers and data.
I just wanted to Reverend Gabe brought up the budget. So I just want to kind of tell you where we are in Hillsborough County. Before the mandates to put armed security in every school, we were spending roughly $16 million a year on security. So that's with our contracts with the Sheriff's Office, TPD, plus our security staff, but it also included vehicles and things like that. Salary-wise, it's right around $12 million. Okay, so $16 million total for security without the new mandates, and the state only gives us $3 million every year. And now with the new mandates, although it was increased, we're only going to get an extra $6 million. So we're at $9 million total. We're still very, very short, but now we also have to add in more security now at the elementaries because we have security in all of the middle and highs, but now we have to go back and put security in all of our elementary schools. So it's just another dereliction of duty when it comes to adequately funding education. And these are the issues that we deal with. Other legislators, they act like they really care about education and they really want to protect us, but their actions show something very different.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I feel like even addressing the issue of allowing teachers to have guns in schools is detrimental to the overall cause because it, one, gives credence to an idea that should be preposterous to anyone who has an ounce of common sense. Not to mention the fact that I am just as likely to be shot in my school as I am as likely to get shot at the mall, to get shot at the movie theater. Like, this is not a school-specific issue. You can be shot anywhere because mass shootings happen everywhere. So to say that you're protecting students by increasing our school safety, that doesn't help us when we leave the classroom, when we leave the campus, and we want to protect Americans as a whole rather than just school students. Not to mention the fact that increasing the security at schools. I don't want to go to a school that's like a prison. I don't want to walk in and have it be like a military complex every time I go to school. Not like, which also impacts, as I think Sophia mentioned earlier, it has negative impacts for people of color at schools, which has been proven. So it's just a horrific idea, which I think kind of glosses over the issue and is a way to kind of shut us up by saying we're protecting you by making it safer for you to go to school. But I just want to say we as a movement, speaking for March for Our Lives Tampa and the national movement, are not satisfied with this. And we don't feel like this is an effective way to address the issue as a whole.
Let me say this. You just heard the most articulate people on this panel that spoke about this issue are the youngest. And they also were that articulate when they came to Tallahassee and spoke to us. And you had members of the legislature literally say on the floor of the House, young people, why are we listening to young people? Young people need to be at school doing homework. Young people don't make the laws and the rules. That's what adults are. That's what we're here for. And my response to that is we haven't done the right thing. They are talking truth to power. This is what we ought to be listening to. So I just want to tell you, this is what we were dealing with in Tallahassee. They were exactly correct. We were not. And our response was not what they were telling us they wanted. It was not what the data showed was the most effective. It was not what was the most cost effective, and it didn't have common sense. But common sense ain't so common in Tallahassee. I want to go to this question here. I'll start with you, Marcus. What are some common sense reforms we can make right now to improve gun safety in Florida? I bet I know one.
Yeah, I think Florida and nationwide, it's improving our background check system. I think that has shown across the board to be the most effective. Right now, about 6% of gun sales go through our federal database for background checks. The other 40%, there are no background checks. These are weapons that are bought on the internet, they're bought at gun shows, there's private sale transfers. In states that have universal background checks, and I think with Oregon coming on board now, we're at about 8, where every gun bought, purchased, transferred has to go through a full background check. And I mean a real background check, not where you didn't get it done in 3 days and now you get your gun. And that was one of the positive things that we saw in Florida was the closing of that loophole, which nationally is called the Charleston loophole. So you had to wait 3 days or until the background check gets passed, whichever's longer. But in states where you have these universal background checks, we see a drastic reduction in gun violence, particularly amongst law enforcement officers, about a 53% reduction in deaths to law enforcement officers. We see a reduction in crimes involving domestic violence. So I would put having a universal background check at the top of the list, and then moving into assault weapons ban and high capacity magazine bans. Those are two of the most sensible things. And the interesting thing is, and it speaks to our democracy, when a majority of the people in this state, the majority of the people in this country support both of those, yet we don't see that at a federal level, and we don't see it at the state level.
We wouldn't even vote. Not that you wouldn't see it, we wouldn't even bring it up for a vote. Now, I know some of you may have questions too, so write them down on whatever piece of paper you have, and Jasmine will collect them so we get to everybody's questions. I know that's the most important, at least I think, part of this discussion.
Definitely, as you mentioned before, creating language, making it illegal for people with a history of domestic violence and abuse to purchase guns.
I would just second what Mr. Fernandez said. I agree that we should have a universal background check system, as well as I think that we should definitely have a ban on assault weapons. I don't think that's necessary. And I don't think any of these common sense reforms infringe on anyone's rights.
No, I just echo the same thing that we need to have more comprehensive and universal background checks. We need to have a ban on assault rifles and assault weapons as well as bump stocks.
Yeah, ditto. Absolutely. Those are the first things that come to mind when I think about it as well. Background checks need to be more strict, and certainly a ban on assault weapons.
That's the last question. Yeah, everything they said. Plus enforcing some of the laws that are already on the books. And I know that some agencies, the state attorney's office has launched a new initiative a few months ago to make sure that domestic abusers have their guns taken away. We also are hearing a lot statewide about the preemption law, which is in the Constitution. Local municipalities are not allowed by law to enact any gun laws in their own areas, except for counties. You can correct me if I'm wrong, and there are 8 counties around the state. Hillsborough is one of them, where